If you've dipped your toe into the dating world after your divorce, well, you probably already know it's not for the faint of heart. If you've been ghosted, you just know how brutal and confusing that can be. Well, today I want to give you a little perspective, maybe a little piece about why people ghost. I actually had a wonderful conversation the other day with somebody, and it just opened my eyes. I connected some dots in some areas. I figure it would be a little helpful. So I'm doing an impromptu podcast episode about this. And here's why. Once you see this, I'm hoping you get a lens put on, what do you call it, a paradigm shift of what you may be experiencing online. But here's how the conversation goes. First of all, let's just start with what I always say. Divorce is trauma. It is not just this sheet of paper. It's not your life just gets better once you sign it, and whatever is the thing that caused you the problem, you're now away from that, and you just got to pick up the pieces and then carry on. The ripple effects of divorce is so complex. It's a real trauma event or events in your life. Like I say, it's what caused the divorce. Then there's the divorce itself, and then there's the aftermath of the divorce. There could be trauma all along the way. But as Christians, we sometimes have this lens of just like, well, let's heal, let's move on, let's just pour ourselves into church. And it's just not that simple, right? So let me stay on track here. So I was talking to somebody about trauma, and they were saying that when you don't have trauma in your life, or maybe you've just not experienced the divorce trauma, you see life through a telescope. Life is big, it's futuristic, it is endless. The possibilities are huge. You feel that way in your marriage of like, what we're going to build a family, we're going to have a career, where are we going to retire, all the things. When you go through trauma, you turn from a telescope into a microscope. Things become small. And it doesn't have to do with just divorce, right? You may have a wonderful life, and then you get that call that you have cancer. You go from, where am I going on vacation next year? Let me think of all those choices to, can I afford this prescription? Did I even take that today? Just microscopic thinking because you were in the moment of some crisis and all you can see is the step right in front of you, if even that. So the change of telescope to microscope. And I thought, wow, that is actually brilliant. That is exactly what happens in those moments. And since we're focusing on divorce, I'm going to stick with divorce right now. So let's say you give it 6 months, you give it a year or two. When you're healing, you're trying to get your legs, and you think, I'm ready to meet somebody. And I think we all have false starts there, but let's just say we don't. Let's say we're all right when we're ready to date. And we think, well, I don't want to date somebody from my church. I don't want to meet somebody from my gym, people I see all the time. That way, if it fails, I don't want to quit my gym and I don't want to quit my church. And I'm going to go online, right? That's the best place to meet people. That's what people say. There's different kind of apps out there. You test them all out. We all try our different ones, the ones that we like. But you meet someone and you're in a conversation and they just ghost you. Like the mind games that we all spend wondering, is it something I said? Is it something I did? Did they die in a car wreck? We were talking so well, everything was going so wonderful. What happened to them? I've ghosted people. I have my reasons. I've been ghosted probably more times than I can count. And when I lay this on top of that ghosting phenomenon, here's what I see. There are moments in your healing where you switch from microscope to telescope, but it's not one day it flips. It's going to be back and forth. So there are times where I thought, I'm ready to date. And I get online and I swipe. I go, oh, this person looks like they're pretty neat. I like their bio, I like their pictures. You swipe, you match, you start talking, and then something feels heavy. It just feels heavy. And you're like, you don't say necessarily, I'm not ready, but you're saying, I'm not ready for that, or that feels like too heavy of a lift. So sometimes you switch, or they switch back to microscope. They went to telescope, like, well, I'm ready to date. And then you get there and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot how hard this is. Or I forgot, yeah, they're going to want me to drive all the way. I thought I would drive to Burleson, Texas. From here, this person seems great. And then you look up a day later, like, what was I thinking? Like, I can't drive to Burleson, Texas through traffic. That's crazy. No, this person looks high maintenance. Like they're going to require me to go to a big steak dinner on the first date. And no, they're just not for me. And you sort of back away. That was definitely a Todd Turner perspective right there. But you get the point. is sometimes you think you're ready, you're optimistic, and then something happens and it pushes you back into the safe mode, the microscopic mode, which may be healing, it may be habits, it may be a small world that you created. And so we all get optimistic sometimes, and sometimes we turn back into realist or pessimistic. Well, the person on the other end may be going through the exact same thing. So we may think they're a jerk, or why do all these people ghost? And don't get me wrong, there are some selfish, narcissistic people out there in the world, male and female. We've all experienced them. But I'm going to call them the 15%. Just they're on the edges. I think a lot of us just ghost because it just feels heavy and we're not as ready as we think. And when it push comes to shove, it's just easier to walk away from that conversation than to have to explain some things. And some of them may not everybody has the vocabulary to explain, man, I thought I was ready, but I wasn't. Or that just feels like a lot right now, and I'm not ready for that. And so, if it's you, maybe you think twice before you go online and you start swiping. I know I have failed plenty of times when it comes to thinking I'm ready to date and then realizing that I'm not. And I know I'm running into people who they want the attention, they want that special someone in their life. And then as soon as anything challenging comes up in the dating process, they abandon ship. They're just like, I don't know. I don't know if I like that thing. I don't know if I'm ready for that thing. I don't know if I want to put in the work for that thing. But let's be honest, that's what relationships are. They're work. There's no fairy tale out there that lets you fall in love for forever. It just doesn't exist without real work. Disney screwed us up with hunting. It's not realistic. And it screwed us up with how love works. It's just no one falls in love. Movies did it too. No one falls in love after just meeting each other, right? You don't hop on a bus that's going out of control, meet somebody, and then you fall in love happily ever after. Like, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work where you meet somebody, you kiss, and everything works perfectly. Like, there's heavy lifting to do. And I think some of us, when we're coming out of our healing journeys after a divorce, we get overly optimistic. We take our telescope approach and then we retreat. It happens. And so let's give grace to others, and let's also think through before we put somebody else through that. So if any of this resonates with you, this is why I created my divorce podcast module. This is the stuff you're not going to find in your churches, because I blend real world in with the theological view of healing from divorce. And so you can go to toddturner.com, take a look. It's dirt cheap, and there's a lot of good resources. And if you purchase the course, you actually get my book, my workbook for women or my workbook for men. You pick which one that you want. And so anyway, just thought I would throw this out there today. It really applies in a lot of areas. Hope into microscope and how we flip back and forth until we finally heal, which I hope stays us in a telescopic view for us for our life. Not that we're not going to go through other stuff again, but it's just nice to think big. That's where hope is. That's where positivity is. That when you come out of trauma, you can regain the lens that you had. The world is a great, wonderful place. Yes, it's broken. Yes, it's tough. Our world is not here yet. It's in heaven, but there are great opportunities the Lord has for you to serve, for you to be in his kingdom and do kingdom work. So even if you haven't found your mate yet, life is still pretty good. All right, check you on the other side. Bye.